thought I was having a psychotic break. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I would ever get back to who I was. I didn't really, I thought a couple of times of calling 911. My girlfriend, as I said, was in Europe, and that's not all. Her college-bound daughter was in her bedroom in the same house, and it compounded my terror and my anxiety. Like, I cannot run into her because I don't want to freak her out.
So today I've got Adam Shartoff on the show, and he's got a little bit of a strange story about magic mushrooms, something that happened to him recently, actually more than once. And he's going to tell his story today. Adam happens to be a podcaster. His podcast is called Filmwax Radio, and he's also a DJ up in the Hudson Valley area of New York. So it's an honor to have Adam on the show today. I am Dr. Dave. Welcome to Microdose U. Hey, Adam, so great to have you on the show today. And you've got a story, I understand.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, I had a bad mushroom trip or two, which instigated me kind of doing a little bit of research on that subject online. And one of the first things that came up was your show and a particular episode you did on how to, strategize so you can avoid a bad mushroom trip, but what you do if you're having one, and so that was very helpful. And so but I thought, I still have a lot of concern about doing mushrooms again. And so I thought maybe I'll reach out, maybe I can get a little bit more support or help, on that matter, because it's, definitely, I don't want to stop doing them or taking them. On the other hand, I definitely don't want a situation like the one I'm about to describe. Yeah.
Well, let's do this then, Adam. Let's hear your story.
Yeah.
I know you want to maybe get some input of like what you could do, how you would handle this. So what we'll do at the end, we'll ask our audience here what would they do, and they'll write in either YouTube or another way.
Hmm.
We'll get some answers for you. And by the way, it's really interesting having you're a podcast host. You're a DJ you're actually on air in the Hudson Valley area, right?
That's right. Yeah. I am, it's a great independent radio station. I mean, how often do you hear that term anymore? It's a very special station. And I just feel very fortunate that to have found my way there after so many years. So yeah, I'm a radio DJ. It's a lot of fun.
I will say I'm totally honored to have a radio DJ and a famous podcaster here. So let's hear your story.
Okay. Just as a little bit of background, I never did mushrooms. No, never did mushrooms, except for maybe one little microdose experience shortly after I moved up to the Hudson Valley with a friend. And I don't really remember very much of feeling very different. But when you microdose, that's sort of the idea. You kind of coats the anxieties or the rough edges a little, smooths out the rough edges. So, but when I met my partner, I shouldn't mention her name because I don't know if she wants to be mentioned. So I'll just not take that chance. But when I met her, she was on a journey, and I use that word very specifically also because she was also involved in these group-led experiences, not using mushrooms necessarily, but using plant medicines, and since it's like it's a whole. I'm not going to really describe it very well, but it's a whole thing where you go with a group and you're in somebody's home and you are led by these people that have a lot of experience in leading such things. And there's a whole process uh, for going in with great intention, excuse me, and also sharing and having a reintegration at the end of the process, and close attention to people's backgrounds, psychological, mental health, and that type of thing. So it's done very, very cautiously, carefully, and I ended up doing this journey, as they call it, with her in LA a couple of times, and I found it to be an incredible experience, and we grew, closer, and then we started to do mushrooms together. She introduced me to mushrooms, and it was just a very huge experience. I don't know if you can remember back for your first time doing it, but it's just, it's a very big experience. And I found it to be ultimately, again, a really wonderful experience. And we've done it over the last few years, maybe, I don't know, half a dozen times, maybe more than that. I'm not sure. Um, And then she went on this vacation back last summer in August. She was had to run to. She's from Denmark, and she went home for like a long weekend or something. And I was invited to my friend's birthday evening, about a half hour from where I live. And for some reason, I came back from work first, and I thought maybe I'll microdose, just take a little bit of mushrooms, and head to the party and have a good time. But the problem is I whenever we've done mushrooms, I've taken kind of like a hands-off approach. Like my partner measures out the dose, she feeds it to us. I'm kind of following her lead in that way. So I didn't really think about it. I popped a couple of stems to my memory of this, what is a very strong, strain of mushrooms called tidal wave. So I get to my friend's place, feeling great. Where there's like a fire pit and the people around the fire pit, and I'm talking to somebody, having a nice conversation. The next thing I know, I get hit by the trip. It comes on full strength, like a tidal wave. Like it really comes on strong and quick. And I all of a sudden realize I am trying to communicate with somebody and have a conversation, and I'm kind of like losing myself here. And I don't want to alarm anybody. And my immediate thought is to take care of everybody so they don't think I'm crazy. Suppress the trip, suppress it. And I tried a number of times to sort of walk around, cool off, talk to a couple of people. It wasn't working. I was only getting more and more along in the trip. And I started feeling kind of paranoid, and it was going dark because I did the exact wrong thing. First of all, doing it alone. Secondly, trying to suppress the effects of the trip is really the wrong thing to do. But I started getting really panicky, and I was losing a sense of myself, and where I was, and like I was starting to hallucinate. And I said, I got to get home. And I don't know how I made it, but I really don't, because I could barely see anything. I was hallucinating. I drove home, which was, of course, just the dumbest thing ever. And I was paranoid the whole way home, of course, about, getting into an accident, hurting somebody, getting pulled over. It would have been such a disaster, but I somehow made it home. And then went through hours of David, like more suffering, existential suffering than I've ever experienced before. Um, I thought I was having a psychotic break. Um, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I would ever get back to who I was. I didn't really, I was thought of a couple of times of calling 911. My girlfriend, as I said, was in Europe. Um, and that's not all. Her college-bound daughter was in her bedroom in the same house, and that even compound. I didn't mention that to you, I think, in the email, but it compounded my terror and my anxiety. Like, I cannot run into her because I don't want to freak her out. And then I went through the next couple of hours of just like going out of my mind. Like I tried to take a shower, but like I didn't even know have a sense of time, or how what that can be like. And um, finally, after I managed to text like one friend and saying, I'm sorry, but I don't want to alarm you, but I'm really in a bad place. And I was texting my girlfriend, but it was the middle of the night where she was. Finally, I had the good sense to call the friend whose birthday evening, and he had had his own past addiction issues, which been in recovery for many years. And he, thank goodness, picked up the phone and was saying goodbye to the last people. And at that point, he was like, "It's okay, I got you, don't worry," and was managed to be there and waited out until I felt somewhat back to normal, and until my girlfriend finally woke up to these crazy texts that she got from me. And we got on FaceTime. And but I really had never been that terrified before. And so that was the first really bad trip. And of course the lesson from there was, okay, you didn't take me, the mushrooms being the other voice here. You thought you were going to just mess around and take me for granted. Well, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You're going to learn from this experience. And, I did. I would, never do it alone again. And I know to measure, and I know that I have to approach it much more thoughtfully with intention and all that. And so a couple of months ago, we did the mushrooms together, my partner and I, at home, and set up the music, which I always recommend. Made things comfortable in our bedroom, and at one point, I felt myself getting dark, and but I was managed to tell her. I told her, and she was able to kind of talk me back away from that dark feeling, so I could trust the trip, and it turned out to be just fine. And then just last about a week or two ago, I forget, right before I contacted you, we did another one. We took about, I should say, I should have been telling you the amount. I think we took 1.75 grams, yeah, 1.75, and it turned out to be okay. This last time we took even less, 1.5, and I had another horrible, horrible experience. It might have even been worse, and I wasn't alone, but I became terrified. And again, I felt like I was going crazy, and I didn't know, like I couldn't get myself, you know, like you just can't suppress it, because if you don't allow yourself to go with it, to calm yourself down and to ride it out and to trust it, it's going to be a very bad experience. And for whatever reason, I had a full on panic attack. And, fortunately, it just sort of, I settled down after a while. And then coming down off it was wonderful. It was beautiful again. The closeness, the conversation after, as we're coming down. Um, so I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I just don't have it. I cannot do it. She was like, there's fear. You have to kind of figure it out. You have to go toward it, and you have to kind of figure out what the fear is and grapple with it. I just want to say as a last thing, as a postscript, that this weekend, knowing that I was going to be talking to David, that decided to do a little bit more than a microdose, just to see, I which was a big deal because we did zero point 0.5, which we still somewhat tripped, but it was great. It turned out to be great. It was great. Like I never lost a sense of my identity or what reality was. But I'm just still kind of very cautious or guarded about and concerned about taking more because while I want to have that experience, I don't want to have the that bad trip, that horrible experience that I had on those two other occasions.
Adam, really, really interesting stories. I mean, amazing.
Mm,
Um, I definitely want to throw this out to my friends and followers and listeners and viewers and all of that. I want to get their opinion. What what would they do? What would they say to you? But just a couple, like I guess, real quick questions. Um, Adam, so what is the main reason that you are using magic mushrooms? Is there something in your life that you want to fix, get better, or is it just pleasure with your partner? You just want to do these with your partner, just enjoy the evening. What is the reason you're doing them?
that's really a great question because I think I am missing a little bit of what it is I'm trying to accomplish. Yeah, for sure, it's a way of getting close together, and we talk, and in ways we don't, well, maybe a way I don't communicate otherwise, and um, but I don't know how much like trauma I've suffered in my life, I guess I tried to, there was a lot of difficulty the years leading up to the time I left New York City, which is when I moved up to the Hudson Valley about 5 years ago, with my folks, with my career, relationships. It was a bad, difficult period of time. And I, like a lot of people, I compartmentalized, and um, yeah, I think I've not quite resolved all of that that painful period. I think, I just sort of put it behind me, you know, and on a mental level, but I don't think the baggage is gone. So I think that's something there that I need to kind of explore more. But yeah, I don't know that I have that specific intention worked out in my head yet. Like it's a good point.
Do you do anything alongside of the dosing, such as, for example, journaling? Do you have a journal that you write down your thoughts and maybe some of your goals and some of your intention? Do you do anything else other than alongside of the mushrooms? I should say.
I haven't consistently been writing, but I have in the past, and I've returned to it. And in fact, I started writing about these these trips, that the difficult trips, and it's hard for me because I feel like I'm somebody who likes to keep very busy and occupied, and I love all the things I do up here, as we discussed at the beginning, and I find myself easily, I don't think distracted is the right word, but occupied, and it's hard for me to focus. But it. I do think there's a lot to learn from writing and journaling.
Oh, absolutely.
So I have done some of it, and I was starting to again, coming out of that more recent bad trip, the second one, and just writing it all out, what's happened.
I was going to go ahead and end this and ask my followers, what would you do? What would you have done if you were Adam at that party and you were really? It sounded like a very powerful trip. And would you have gotten in your car? What would you have done? But maybe the best thing to do, Adam, is to ask you, what do you want to know? What do you want to know from the followers? What question or questions would you like to have answered? Because I've got a bunch of people that I know are going to, be watching, listening, and answering. So,
Uh,
what is it that you would like to?
That's great that you have that audience. Yeah, I would really appreciate. Well, if you have had um, a terrifying experience with mushrooms, what is your feeling like? What do you think maybe I'm missing? I mean, it could be some of this in being more intentional, as you're kind of suggesting, but it could all, like, what is the strategy for once you're starting to feel that darkness come on? My partner has less difficulty going toward it, and sitting there, I seem to really um, have a hard time with it. Really hard time. Like I look at it as my enemy in a way on some level. So I'm curious to know like how people have dealt with it, when it's come on, um, or yeah, any advice about how to go into it again, because I would look forward to having another mushroom trip and it turned out to be a beautiful experience like most of the past ones that I did.
Let's do this. I've got a few thoughts, of course, but instead of me giving my thoughts and guiding people to their answer, I'd like to not say anything, and let's just see what other people say. It'll be very interesting, and I'll either send you responses or you can keep an eye on them on YouTube, and let's see what people say, and then we can take it from there, Adam. Fair enough.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate you being on here at your time, and I'd love to have you back sometime when you have maybe you're going to do some more trips or some more microdosing. And after some of these answers, let's see where you are, let's see what you do, and let's get you back and see where things stand. Fair enough? Would you come
Fair
back?
enough. Yeah, absolutely.
Adam, thank you so much for being here. Adam Shartoff, he is the host, producer of Film Wax Radio, as well as a DJ up in the Hudson Valley. So if you're in that area, or if you want to, maybe I'll see if I can put it in the show notes. Listen to his show. I'm imagining that you're on the internet somewhere. All radio stations are on the internet these days, I'm guessing. So I'm guessing
Oh
people
yeah.
can listen to you anywhere. So if you send me that, we'll put that on the show in
Yep.
the show notes. And
I'll do that. Sure. Absolutely. I think people like it.
I think so too, for sure. So, Adam, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Let's see what comes in, and we'll definitely take it from there.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Thank you.